Hello and welcome to the Morning Scoop. It is Wednesday, August 24th. It's officially time for us to really start zeroing in on the Notre Dame game, which is coming week one. BuckeyeScoop.com will have wall-to-wall coverage leading up and after the game. So, today, we're going to be spending a little bit of time covering the Notre Dame offense. We're going to talk a little bit about their personnel, what I think they might try to do to try to attack this brand new Ohio State defense during the week one matchup in the shoe. So let's get right into it. The offensive coordinator for the Irish is going to be Tommy Rees, who is currently in his third year as the Notre Dame play caller. I personally really haven't been too impressed with him. I've been really waiting for Notre Dame to have a dynamic offense for my entire life, and I suppose I'm really going to keep waiting. But anyway, let's get into the offense as a whole from the personnel perspective. Quarterback Tyler Buckner is slated to be the guy. He was announced last week as the starter by Marcus Freeman, and he's going to be walking into the horseshoe to make his first official start here in a little less than 2 weeks. Now, Buckner, he's not the most experienced guy in the world, obviously. He's a true sophomore, and this is going to be his first start. He did play a good bit last year. They mostly had him running the ball a lot. He's still very green as a passer, although I do think he has talent, but he only had 35 attempts last year, and he completed 21 of them. I believe he had 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, probably about 300 yards. So, really kind of had like a game's worth of production, I would say, overall. He throws the ball. When he throws the ball, he spins it nice. He has a decent arm, good arm even. I'd say he's definitely capable of throwing the ball at a high level in college. I don't think he's an elite passer by any stretch of the imagination. He's not like a C.J. Stroud or a Trevor Lawrence of the world. He's still very green in that respect. But who knows? He could improve as he goes on his career. He's only a sophomore. But it's his legs that really make him a dangerous player. He isn't a burner by any means, but is he athletic, and he runs hard. I don't want to compare anybody to J.T. Barrett just with what he could do with his legs, but he's got kind of some traits like that. He keeps his legs moving. He doesn't really go down on the first hit, and that makes him pretty dangerous overall. He's going to be somebody that he's going to present a challenge to the Ohio State defense. Now, Jim Knowles has experience with athletic quarterbacks, so this will be no different. But Ohio State has struggled with some guys that can move a little bit, and Notre Dame's going to try to equate numbers quite a bit, use his legs in the run game, and you kind of want to keep a spy on him, I would say at times, because, well, I don't think Ohio State's terribly worried about him picking them apart in the passing game. I think him extending and creating. Think of a guy like Trace McSorley in 2018, just as a reference point. That could be the kind of game you end up having to play if you don't manage his legs effectively, and I think they're really going to try to focus on getting him down when they do get into his face and making sure that when he does break outside that they're able to close very quickly and get to him so he doesn't burn them for too many yards. Now, moving on, the running back room, it's going to be anchored by junior Chris Tyree, who is going to be the starting running back over the course of his career so far. He is a junior. He has about 129 carries for 718 yards and 5 touchdowns, so he's averaging about 5.5 per carry for his career, which is pretty good. They also like to get involved in the passing game quite a bit. He's had 32 catches for 323 yards and 2 touchdowns in his career so far. And after watching him a little bit more, I would call him he's a good back. He's not elite. He's not a Travion Henderson. He's not a Bijan Robinson. But he's a very good, middle. Yeah, I would say probably upper to middle tier, Midwestern running back. He's not like any of the guys they've had at Wisconsin, but he's going to be a guy who can get you like 1,000 yards a year, maybe 12 touchdowns, and if he gets drafted, we'll see. It's probably going to be like a mid-tier team, mid-tier part of the draft, like the somewhere in the 4th to 7th round probably, but he's going to be a pretty good back, and I think he's somebody that, Ohio State's obviously going to have to defend. They're going to have to make sure they get him on the ground because he can't hurt you when he gets into the open field. Now, For the for the receivers, if you're an Irish fan, I would strongly suggest covering your ears here. This group has sadly been just ravaged by injuries all throughout the year. Avery Davis, who was supposed to be a team leader on offense and was supposed to probably be their leading wideout this year, just suffered a season-ending injury, unfortunately. And that's a bummer because he was a guy they really expected a lot from. He's been in the program a long time. And you hate seeing kids go out like that, too. Still, some decent talent still in the unit. Lorenzo Styles is probably going to have to be the guy they rely on the most in that room. And, for those of you who don't know, he is Sonny Styles' brother, actually, so that'll be a fun one for the Styles family. And I like him quite a bit, actually. He runs pretty well. He's dangerous with the ball in his hands. I don't think his ball skills are there quite yet. I think he needs to be developed a little bit more, but he's got a lot of tools, and he's probably their best receiver in that room as of right now. He's certainly the best in terms of production coming back, but as far as the other guys go, Braden Lenzy is another guy who will be in the rotation. He's a guy that can run a little bit too, and I don't know how much I wouldn't consider him a major threat or anything, but he is a guy to keep your eye on when he has the ball in his hands, at least. And Jaden Thomas and Joe Wilkins Jr. are some other names that will be in the rotation. It's going to be the room's kind of green right now, and it's going to be I wouldn't expect them to rely on this group too heavily to try and win the game, but Wilkins is also coming back from an injury from the spring, so we'll see how good to go he is for that game. And overall, it's just an unproven group, but there is a lot of talent there. It's just a matter. I don't know if it's all developed talent right now. That's the only thing. But anyway, moving on into the tight end room. This is the big one. This is the big matchup. Michael Mayer's probably their best player on offense. He's a first-round pick to me. He's probably the best tight end in the country, either him or Brock Bowers, really. And he's more dangerous than anybody they've got in the receiving room, as of right now, for sure. And I think he's going to be the guy that the Buckeyes really need to focus on eliminating. You even saw Jim Knowles get asked about this, in his press conference the other day. And, a lot of the pass game, I think, really runs through him and what he offers you. And he's a playmaking tight end. He's a guy where if he has the ball in his hands, he's very hard to bring down because he is a big physical guy. And I do think he's going to be the number one option in a lot of their concepts. So the big key with them is going to be making sure he doesn't get, as we said yesterday, doesn't get any free releases, he's not able to get to the middle of the field untouched. You want to chip him off the line of scrimmage. You want your linebackers and safeties when you're in coverage with him to play very physical with him. But if you able to eliminate him enough times, or at least contain him, maybe not eliminate, but that's going to force Buckner to have to move to his second, third, and fourth option in a lot of these concepts. And I don't know if he's a skilled enough passer right now to really do that. And I think that's, if you take him away, that's how you're going to create a lot of confusion. And, Mitchell Evans is going to be their second guy. He's going to be working in more than likely because I expect them to go into a lot of two tight end sets. It's going to be a lot of 12 personnel because I do think they're going to try to really lean on the run game and run the football quite a bit. But, he's a good blocker. He doesn't offer, to me, a whole lot in the receiving game. But, again, it's a formidable challenge no matter how you look at it. Now for the offensive line. All right, this is time to talk about the big guys. The legendary Harry Hiestand is back to coach the Notre Dame offensive line, and that just has to be just such a welcome sight in South Bend. I would honestly say he's probably the Larry Johnson equivalent for offensive line play in the country. Him or Steve Adazio is probably really the most renowned offensive line coaches in the country. And here's what we are going to know about this unit. Since it's a Hiestand-led room, they're going to be a big, big, big offensive line. Right now they are big. They average about 315 pounds across the board, so big, large dudes. And they're going to be well coached, and they're going to play physical. The lineup right now, barring anything weird happening for the rest of practice and camp, sophomore Joe Alt is probably going to be the left tackle, and then going into the left guard spot. Fifth-year senior and preseason All-American Jared Patterson is going to be the left guard. He was actually taken out of his starting center spot after he suffered an injury, which Zeke Cornell, who's a junior, he's filling the center spot, and he's projected. He's impressed in camp from what I've heard. And sixth-year senior Josh Lugg will be at right guard, so a lot of experience so far on this line. And sophomore, highly recruited guy Blake Fisher will be the starting right tackle. Excuse me. Overall, it's going to be a big line. They're going to be physical, and we know they're going to be well coached. I think when you look at a line this size, I really think they're going to try to hit a lot of vertical hitters against the Buckeye front. I think they're going to try to move them off the ball quite a bit. And especially after watching the tape from the Michigan game and the Oregon game and the Nebraska game even, where Ohio State really struggled to stop the run. And I think that's really what the Notre Dame game plan has to be, especially with kind of a young guy playing quarterback who hasn't had a lot of experience throwing the ball. You're asking him to come in to the shoe at night, prime time against a national championship favorite. That's just... I don't think you can put the game all on Buckner. I think you really have to rely on the run game. And for Ohio State to really win that battle, I think it's going to come down to, obviously, can the front seven hold up? They need to cause enough confusion. They need to control the line of scrimmage as best they can for the majority of the game, I would say, specifically early on to get the offense on the field. Now, it's a cliche, but ultimately this game is going to come down to being won in the trenches. And the D-line, if they're not ready for a fight, could really have their hands full going into the second half of the game. Now, for the Notre Dame offense as a whole, I think this is going to be a solid group in 2022. I'd imagine it'll go about as far as Buckner could take them. Again, it's a big ask asking him to come in and beat Ohio State, but as the year progresses, I expect him to get better. I'm definitely not going to write him off, based on if he struggles against Ohio State. But who knows? He could come in week one and just light the Ohio State defense up. In which case, he'd be proving all of us wrong. But that's why this game is great. Again, I think the game plan will mostly come down to what teams like Michigan did and try to control the line and win the game. So Buckeye defense, I don't think is in for any real surprises. They might be in for a few wrinkles and here and there, and Freeman might throw a few interesting things in as a first-time head coach trying to win a big game in a big environment. But ultimately, it's going to come down to the trenches like any other big matchup against big programs. So with that, we will have more coverage coming tomorrow. We'll be addressing the Notre Dame defense, and we'll have, again, wall-to-wall coverage going from now until Notre Dame game day and the post-game. So thank you very much for listening. We will see you all back tomorrow, and have yourselves a wonderful rest of your day.